Hey everybody, good to see you all. Good day. How you been? Hi everybody, good to see you all. It's a good day. This one away. You use this thing?
No, I don't.
I don't either. There we go. Bias. All right, well, good afternoon everybody. It's great to see you all back here, and over the past few months, I know legislators have been doing the same, but the Lieutenant Governor, myself, all of our commissioners you see up here, been traveling from every corner of Minnesota, from St. Cloud to Blue Earth and Mankato to up to Duluth, making sure we're taking a look at the things and listening to what local folks are saying about the facilities in their communities. And so those things that they're most concerned about, clean water in their communities, public safety in their communities, safe roads and bridges in their community. Those are the things that that make Minnesota work. They're the things that connect us together. They're the things that improve safety and drive commerce. And that's what today's announcement is about. The major focus of this year's bonding bill is going to be making sure we're doing those fundamental services that Minnesotans depend on. I'm proposing an infrastructure bill today to protect drinking water, improve roads and bridges, keep communities safe in public safety, and support safe housing. Another key part of this plan is going to be preserving what we already have. The infrastructure in this state from corner to corner is our greatest asset. It also is irresponsible to not make sure you're keeping up the maintenance on those, whether it's the higher education at our colleges and universities or whether it's some of those infrastructure in communities. I've said it before, this is a year to focus on implementing the things that we did last year. Minnesota is in a strong spot. Unemployment is low, labor force participation is high, business growth is up, and you've seen it across the state, whether it's a $5 billion investment by the Mayo Clinic or Helene investing on the Iron Range in the move towards clean energy. Those are positive things, and for Minnesota to be able to continue to compete, for Minnesota to continue to keep up the services that's expected of them, it makes sense to do something, and this is one that I'm proud to say, do something that is traditionally incredibly bipartisan. The infrastructure bill hits to the heart of what legislators know. They go home, they're hearing from their city council. They're hearing from their county commissioners. They're hearing from their neighbors about things that need to be done and smart investments that need to go forward. All of this, then, is done by creating good Minnesota labor jobs that create and support wages and benefits for the middle class in those very communities where the projects are being built. And we finally started to turn the corner on this. Instead of years of piling up these infrastructure needs and 2 years where irresponsibly a bonding bill did not get done, we've got a consistency now. That coupled with the historic Federal Infrastructure Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the designation of Minnesota as a hydrogen hub and as a tech hub, all of those things positions Minnesota incredibly well to create good paying construction jobs, to keep up infrastructure, to get lead out of people's pipes in their houses, to make sure our highways are the best and maintained, to make sure that our public buildings are accessible to all Minnesotans. So I'm excited about what we're able to do. We're proposing, as you're going to see up here, about $982 million. I'm going to leave the specifics to Commissioner Campbell. We've been joined, you're going to hear from the building trades representatives today. And labor is here, as you see, in force because they know what this means for Minnesota. If they can put steel in the ground and create those jobs, we move Minnesota forward. And we're finally seeing the golden age of construction and infrastructure in Minnesota. This bonding proposal keeps us there. At the same time, it is a fiscally responsible move to keep Minnesota on that path of balanced budgets, continued job growth, the ability to be able to lower taxes, which you're seeing this year around Social Security, tax credits for families that are working. All of these things are smart investments at the same time keeping our AAA bond rating in one of the most fiscally sound state government budgets in the country. And with that, I'm going to turn it to the person responsible over at MMB to make that happen, Commissioner Campbell.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Erin Campbell, Commissioner at Minnesota Management and Budget. Over the past several months, significant work and thought has gone into the development of this capital investment plan. This is a responsible budget that offers a great deal of care for our existing infrastructure. This capital budget moves Minnesota forward and focuses on the most critical needs following the historic investments last session. Importantly, this plan stays within the state's debt capacity guidelines of $830 million in general obligation bonds and limits general fund spending in recognition of the limited resources projected next biennium. 45% of the resources in this package would go towards fixing and improving existing facilities. As you can see, this is a major priority and an increase from past enacted bills. Included in this category is $387 million for asset preservation for state agency and higher education facilities and infrastructure. This $387 million is 43% of general fund supported funding in the governor's recommendations, compared to $256 million and 10% of general fund supported spending in the final 2023 infrastructure package. To be clear, last year's bonding bill had a lot to be proud of, including major investments in new infrastructure. With those needs addressed, this is a year to focus on reinvesting in taking care of the state properties that taxpayers already own. There are a few reasons for this. The state has a building portfolio with an average age of 42 years. The largest and most expensive of all asset renewal projects tend to occur when a building is over 30 years old. As a result, significant funds need to be invested in preserving what we already have to serve Minnesotans for many years to come. For example, DHS buildings need roof and window replacements, recommissioning of HVAC and envelope upgrades. DNR campsite infrastructure needs refurbishing, park roads and bridges need significant repairs or replacement, and buildings need safety and accessibility compliance. At the DOC, facilities need tunnel repairs, water system upgrades, and facade repairs to prevent damage to the interior of the buildings. And at the U of M and Minnesota State, they need HVAC replacements, roof replacements, mechanical upgrades, heating plant improvements, and code and life safety improvements. And this is just a snapshot of an ever-growing need. As an added bonus, I would just point out that many of these upgrades have the benefit of creating energy efficiencies in our buildings. We need to invest in these assets now to begin to address the $6.4 billion in deferred maintenance of state infrastructure. Investing in our facilities is the fiscally responsible thing to do. The cost to repair a building increases significantly as a facility's condition worsens. Additionally, our rating agencies have commented on the importance of maintaining existing infrastructure, with S&P citing the risks of not doing so as reducing asset life, increasing future capital costs, and decreasing future financial flexibility. For those reasons, this investment helps preserve our high bond rating, currently AAA among all three rating agencies, and keep our borrowing rate low. And as you can see in this pie chart, this major investment in preserving state infrastructure will occur at the same time we are making investments in water and transportation infrastructure, public safety, housing and environment, and many other improvements. To summarize, the fund impact of these recommendations, $830 million of this package is paid for with GO bonds, $152 million is paid in other ways, such as trunk highway cash, highway infrastructure bonds, and general fund cash, for a total of $982 million across all funds. By staying within the debt capacity guidelines, this infrastructure plan preserves our high bond rating and continues borrowing capacity for future legislatures. In closing, I would just note that information, all of the detailed information, is posted on MMB's website. If you look under budget, there you'll find the details of each project included in the governor's infrastructure plan. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Tom Dicklich with the building trades.
Thanks, Commissioner. Thanks, everyone. Governor Walz, thank you for having the building trades as part of today's bonding bill launch. My name is Tom Dicklich. I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota State Building and Construction Trades Council, representing over 70,000 women and men in the building trades across the state of Minnesota. As we have done in the past, we thank you for your leadership in passing the record bonding bill last legislative session and for your continued leadership in announcing and bringing forward this bonding proposal for this upcoming legislative session. We know and understand the importance of these bonding bills, not just to protect and update our assets and our infrastructure, but the importance to our women and men in the trades who are eagerly waiting to do these projects. The need to pass this bonding bill is apparent, and even after passing the bills last year and with this proposal here, there are still billions of dollars of need for projects around the state. As has been stated in the past, we don't see bonding bills as a partisan issue. These projects don't just lie in DFL or GOP districts. These projects are needed throughout the state of Minnesota. We hope leaders in both chambers of the legislature and both parties see the apparent need to keep up on these projects and follow your lead on this. Deferring these preservation of our assets and the much needed maintenance of our infrastructure have great consequences. And Governor, as you know, the reason why there's so much labor in this room is because these bills are important to us. These have put the women and men of the trades to work. So thank you for your leadership on this, and we look forward to working with you this session to get these passed.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. I've also got here some of our commissioners. You see Superintendent Evans from BCA. You see Commissioner Jacobson from DPS and others that are up here, but just to highlight, we're out in these communities and we're doing roundtables with the folks who are out there, and that's the most recent one down in Mankato talking about the need for the Southern Minnesota BCA facility that's been many decades in the planning, and we've acquired that piece of land in the last bonding proposal, and that is a line item that I put in mind to make sure that we get that done. Quicker processing time for evidence down there, making sure they're closer, and for smaller communities on public safety, they have a very small force. They got to put one officer or someone to run the things up to St. Paul in a building that's already overcrowded. And so I think about the construction jobs on something like a BCA facility in Mankato serving all of the southern tier of Minnesota, at the same time creating about 50 permanent scientist jobs is basically what they are, forensic scientists in those buildings. Really great growth things, really smart, and it enhances public safety. With that, any one of us, I think, would be glad to take any questions.
For the Public Safety Commissioner, why do you need why does the State Patrol need its own headquarters? Why can't you just stay in downtown St. Paul?
Good afternoon, everybody. Commissioner Bob Jacobson. I think the question related to why does the State Patrol need a new headquarters. So for those of you that may have visited our State Patrol headquarters in downtown St. Paul, you really wouldn't know that it existed. It is kind of built into the town square facility, and I think what's really important is to get a facility that can house all of our operations right now. Our operations for State Patrol, especially around the metro area, are divided amongst 3 or 4 different district locations. So I think it's important to bring our teams together so that they can work together. It will still be centrally located in the metropolitan area, so that it'll be close to where we need to be. But again, I think as you look at the State Patrol facility as it currently is, it's not designed for the force that we have. It's not designed to be able to, for our staff to be able to work together. And again, I'd probably challenge any of you, if you want to know where the State Patrol headquarters is, to try to go find it in the Town Square building. Many of you don't know where it exists, so I think it's really important. We also have Colonel Langer here too, who may be able to add a little bit to that discussion if you'd like.
I thought we weren't supposed to tell you that. Governor, Commissioner, thank you. It's a great question and one that I'm happy to field. So currently the succinct answer is this isn't about replacing a headquarters. This is about charting the future of the Minnesota State Patrol. We currently in our metropolitan area work out of 6 different office spaces that is about as fragmented and disjointed as you can get. And perhaps 30 or 40 years ago that worked just fine. But given the pressures that we have today and what Minnesota needs out of the State Patrol as we look toward the future, we see tremendous value in bringing those 6 fragmented, segmented sections together to gain efficiency, to gain synergy, to gain additional accountability, and as part of it also to recruit the best and brightest people and also retain the ones that we have in this environment. So it is not about replacing a headquarters, it is about building a completely new facility to chart the future of the Minnesota State Patrol. A great question. So location is everything with real estate, and it's same with this. So we would envision it to be somewhere centrally located, as Commissioner Jacobson said, in the metropolitan area. We don't have a piece of property identified specifically, but we see value in it being centrally located within the metropolitan area that we serve.
Are any of your offices outside Golden Valley and the road, is there enough land there to build it there in one of those locations? Is there enough?
There's not. So we have 2 offices in Golden Valley, one in Minnesota Heights in a private facility, one in St. Paul, one in Oakdale, and one in Arden Hills. So none of those facilities are currently situated on enough property that the pre-design report indicates is necessary to build the campus that we intend to try to build, at least with here design and land acquisition.
Would you have a
Good question. That's totally separate, and they're in a separate lease at St. Paul's Downtown Airport, and they would stay there.
Governor, I don't see hospital money for U of M. Is that still to come, or is that?
Yeah, well, the question is a good one. It's about the U of N hospital situation and the teaching hospital and the situation with Fairview. As you know, that workforce group over there is still formulating some potential solutions on that. They've not come forward. I think the one thing is anytime in state government, it's not a finite. These things come up, and we'll continue to work with the changing environment on that, and we'll see what that looks like. So we don't actually know what that ask is going to look like, what the need is there, whether it will reflect around bonding, or there'll be some type of appropriation. So.
I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the corrections section of
Yeah, I'll let Paul come up, and I think some of you, and this is, I'm going to credit the commissioner on this, has been really proactive about bringing legislators out. And I'm going to thank the legislators, not just those in the bonding side of things, but a lot of legislators are finally getting out and going through our facilities. And if you've toured Stillwater or St. Cloud, it becomes very apparent to you, even as a layman, that something needs to be done on that. So I think the corrections backlog has been one that we've really been focused on, and I think it makes up a part of this. So Paul, turn to you.
So thank you, Paul Schnell, Commissioner at the Department of Corrections. As you know, in the governor's recommendation is about just shy of $75 million in asset preservation, which is critical for us. We're sitting, that's about 10% of the deferred maintenance needs that the department has. And as many people know, our facilities range in age from 125 years at the oldest side, and the youngest, the newest facility is pushing 30 years old. So the needs are profound. We believe this investment in deferred maintenance will go a long way. And then there is an expansion project of about $46 million at the Rush City site to offer programming. And that includes medical, therapeutic services, and those sorts of things. When that facility was built, that was cut as part of that project. That facility itself also is now double bunked, and it was built for single bunking. So the need there is pronounced, and we think this investment will go a long way.
When you say the 46 million, is that the 47 million to build the infrastructure to provide rehabilitation, rehabilitative programming, and educational space? Is
That's correct. Yeah, that's Rush Cities. That's a specific project that would build out needed programming, medical, healthcare space up at Rush City.
They don't have that stuff there now?
That much of that was cut. It's very, very limited. So there is, right now we have some old 20-year-old trailers that have been brought in to provide, which is where therapeutic services are delivered. So this would actually build out those services.
And so what's the oldest one? Is that Stillwater?
The oldest, Stillwater and St. Cloud compete for that, and almost the 120-year mark. The newest being Rush City. No, that is not housing. That is purely programming, space, medical care, therapeutic services.
Congratulate you on that granular question, too, on that, so thank you.
Yeah, Minnesota Wild have been making noises about needing big renovations at the XL Energy Center and not seeing them in here.
Well, there's no proposal been presented yet, and that's not that unusual, I think, and there's certainly, as we all know, there's other ways to go about the bonding is to go through the legislature, because they will have their ideas too, and we'll kind of come together on this. A lot of this you're going to see is going to sync up, because we're hearing from local officials, you're going to talk to local legislators, but the issue around the XL or the potential rebuild of the downtown area around the XL Center, I think is something that will probably come forward, but at this time, we've not seen any proposal put forward either by the Wild or by the city. It looks to me like we could anticipate that coming and work through it when it does.
Same question with the 62 million for U.S. Bank stadiums?
Yeah, I think that's the same thing, that get an official request and probably come through the legislature on that, and it's a discussion that we're going to have. Look, this is a policy discussion that's out there. What do you do about all this public infrastructure? These are a little different because it's not solely like the University of Minnesota or a BCA facility. It's a private entity working in conjunction around these sports facilities, and so I don't think that's something that's going to go away. I don't know if it'll ever happen. I've advocated that I thought we need a kind of a long-term matrix on this to decide who's up next and who's coming, and it's a little more predictable about this, because then it becomes the big rush to the legislature of who gets funded. And I've made no bones about it that I think these are valuable assets to our communities. I think we've done some smart things. I will note again, so that maybe it gets some coverage, we paid off a note 20 years early, saving $250 million in a construction project that created thousands of jobs and is serving the state well. So we'll see what comes forward.
Governor, last year there was trouble getting Republican senators for support for a bonding bill. Why is this year different? I mean, do you anticipate supporting this bill?
Well, again, bonding has been, and that was the unfortunate thing. I think I was, and I'll work to do my best on this. I'm making it very clear. This is my big show for this legislative session, and it should be very, very bipartisan. This is what we're going to ask for. These are things that are coming directly from their communities. These are things that are directly impacting their communities. And I think most of these folks know just, you can't always make that direct correlation between your household budget and state budget. People say, you need to budget like the state does this. Well, you certainly wouldn't let your windows fall off and your roof collapse and things, because your value of the most important thing in your life is those infrastructures. For us, the most important thing is the safety of our people, which is directly correlated to the infrastructure. So I think they'll be there. They've always voted for it. I'm hearing from their mayors. I'm hearing from their county commissioners. I'm hearing from them personally. And look, we've got really good, I'm just going to single out Representative Erdahl is an expert in this. He's a champion on bonding. He works very closely. He and I have spoken several times already here before the session starts. He understands this and understands the value of this. This is a very conservative thing, bonding. Bonding and keeping up infrastructure is a very conservative value. And I think it got in a little bit political. If I say it's Tuesday, we've got a fight. Now it's Wednesday, and then that type of thing. I don't think this will go that way this year. I think there'll be strong bipartisan support.
Are there any proposals in here that were made by Republicans that you included in your plan?
A lot of that's open for the local projects. That's open for them to go. They'll request the HEAPR projects for higher ed. If you're representing Crookston or you're representing Duluth, wherever you're at, those are going to be coming from their folks to those upkeep of those buildings. But there's space in there for the local projects to come from them. I think named projects, Drew, maybe you could help. Was the BCA facility the only one we did this year? Where I named, I think. Do you know?
Regional in terms of the city.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Governor. We don't, the projects that are included in the bill are largely from things that have come from state agencies. Many of them do pass through to local governments, but those aren't named. So an example is the Public Facilities Authority and all of the resources that they put out to local governments in the form of grants and loans. And so that is a pass through to local governments. But what you'll see in the bill is there's $40 million set aside for local projects without any of them being named.
Can you stay there unless you want to respond to the same question? Because I was going to ask the commissioners.
No, you ask her. That's good. So, that doesn't happen often.
What is your interest rate environment? I think we're around 3% in August when you last sold. Is it going to get better by the time you go out to market? Or?
Yeah, it was, I believe, 3.4% when we last sold. We think when we anticipate when we sell sometime this summer, it will have gone up probably in the neighborhood of 4.3%.
Two more on or off?
Off topic?
We done on? All right. Sure.
So it seems that by summer, a majority of the state Supreme Court justices will be your appointees. You're going to have 2 open seats now, so what are you looking for?
Yeah.
Anything, are you committing to any specific demographics or anything?
Well, let me first say, and I think this is, I look at some of you responding to that the news on Justice Chudich has just gone out. Margaret Chudich has just indicated that she will be stepping down from the court. I'm going to meet with her after we finish this meeting, and of course this falls on the heels of Justice Anderson. I think this is a good time for us to kind of pause. 2 giants with Justice Chudich and Anderson, fairly long serving on the court, appointed by different governors from different parties who have the trust of Minnesotans, who govern and follow the rule of law regardless of political ideology, and have, I think, safe to say, and the experts in this would, I think, tell you that, make Minnesota courts one of the fairest and the most respected. And so I think what you can expect is, as you've seen on this, we will select qualified jurists who can serve on that court and serve the people of Minnesota. And once they're appointed from me, they become an independent branch of government in the judicial branch, and they do their work accordingly. So I think we'll sit down and talk about this. We'll talk about what's next. I don't think this is unprecedented, but it's certainly rare and unusual to have two openings at the same time on the court. And of course, this follows an appointment after long-serving Chief Justice Gilday with new Chief Justice Hudson. So there have been changes on there. I think the one thing I would assure Minnesotans is the continuity and the stability of the Minnesota Supreme Court is probably as strong as any institution in this country. I take a real sense of responsibility of making sure it stays that way. And so when these folks go on there, they work collegially to get results for Minnesotans.
Do you have a time frame for when you expect to make the appointment?
No, and I think talking, and I'll have to see, on Justice's Chudich time schedule, I think they usually finish, and I think Justice Anderson mentioned, I think publicly said they kind of finish up getting their cases in May, and then they wrap up if they're doing opinions, whatever, in June is when they finish. So I think we're probably talking sometime here in the spring before summer seems appropriate.
July 31st, Jude said?
What's that?
Jude said July 31st for her departure?
Yeah, that could be. And so I think that's where you're looking in that time period, and then trying to get someone in place so they're ready to step in and go.
Easier or harder to find a justice of the Supreme Court or a cannabis owner?
Look, all these appointments are important on this. I think the one thing is there's a little more consistency around a Supreme Court, a little more consistency around an attorney or a judge in this, but we'll make sure, and lessons learned. So we'll get you an appointment in all of those positions.
Are you anywhere close to picking a cannabis person?
I haven't circled back in this. I think the work's being done at this point, and I just have to tell you, we'll get someone in there. I'm less concerned about that than the work that's being done in the collaboration of building out that infrastructure that's going to have to happen no matter who's in there to do it. I think you're seeing it, and we're looking across the country. It's challenging in this position just because of the nature of what the job is, trying to find a regulator. And I am encouraged, though, to see, and the one thing I brought up before, the federal government talking now about changing cannabis from a Schedule I, I think those things start to align the regulatory piece a little bit better, and I think you have more people willing to maybe step in and do this, because this is hard stuff, and we need to get it right. I'm really pleased right now you're seeing some of this work around cannabis flower, some of the enforcement, and we're getting out there into communities, making sure that there's confusion around what should be on the market and what shouldn't be. So we'll get it. We'll get them in. Any last questions? Give my final. Yeah, please. Are you good? I'm going to give my shout out to labor who's in the room. They continue to work in their communities. They make the case for why these infrastructure projects matter. They approach it in a nonpartisan manner with the support across the political spectrum. And then at the end of the day, while we did it unusually, an announcement on a building project in this room, their members are out there right now building Minnesota in this weather, continuing to make sure our roads are safe, our water is clean, our bridges do not fall down. And so a thank you to labor. Thanks for building Minnesota. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Everyone's good?
Really good.
Good to see you. Thanks, folks. Thanks for being here. We'll get this thing done. Make the pitch. Keep the pipeline flowing. So, mostly sometime this week.